Some people go to work every day, stare at a screen, and sit at a desk. Others go to work and pretend to be dying of a disease or pretend to be a criminal resisting arrest and get tackled by law enforcement agents in training. Of course, I'm talking about a standardized patient and a law enforcement role player. My next guest is not only a talented actress, but also my dear friend, Janae Palmer. I'm Red Younger, and this is It's My Job to Know Yours. Janae, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Why is that funny?
Why are you laughing?
Yeah, I'm surprised you're having me on this show. Just us knowing our relationship with each other. Us two together, like, I don't think we can ever have a serious conversation. We're going to be here for, like, the next 6 hours.
We're on a time clock. I've done episodes before, and I literally cannot. They're usually professional. They're done. And with you, okay, I'm dead.
Yeah, we're going to be here a while.
Hey, for real, let's buckle down. Good morning, Janae. Thank you so much for being here today.
Do you want me to start it? Good morning, Red. Thanks for being here.
Okay, we have to stop laughing. Or we should laugh. Should we laugh?
We should laugh. It's natural.
I think we should laugh. Okay,
yeah.
Fine. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Janae, good morning. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
Honestly,
it's my pleasure.
Honestly, it's kind of surreal having you on the show. I remember about a year or two ago, we were taking a road trip up to Richmond, Virginia for an audition that we were both auditioning for.
That we didn't get.
Neither of us got. And I remember that night I was filming, I think, our very, very first episode at our old studio. And that was the episode of Donna's episode. If you haven't seen it, why not go back and watch it?
I helped him with those questions.
Yes, and it was Donna who worked in a morgue for 10 years, taking out donor eyeballs. Really, really fascinating episode. And you and I was driving, and you were like taking notes from me, coming up with all the questions of what we would ask her and what we would talk about.
I should have just done the interview
and
myself.
Honestly, yes. And now having you on the show, it's like kind of that like full circle moment because let's be honest, you're in high demand, and I've been wanting to get you on the show for a really long time. So honestly, I'm really, really grateful that you made the time to come out here on this show and just like support me. You've been so supportive of me and everything that I've done until now. And it really means a lot that you are here with me today.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Of course. So let's get into the episode. You are an actress, and it's interesting because I'm an actor as well. People, I think, often, when I tell people I'm an actor, their first response is like, "Really? But like, what have I seen you in?" Right? Isn't that like probably your like first response? Yeah. And it's like my response to that always is, you can be an actor and not be Brad Pitt. There are so many different avenues that you can go down of acting. And, I have future episodes plans of other actors who do different, like kind of branches of acting, right? So there's more to it than just film, television, and theater. Mm-hmm. And with that includes being a standardized patient, a law enforcement role player, and a law student role play, which is something that you've been doing for a while, aside from, television commercials, music videos, and all that you've been doing. So let's just jump right into it. Being, let's say, a standardized patient, can you describe to me a little bit about what that is? What does that mean? Because when I first heard of this, I was like blown away that this job even existed. It honestly, it boggled like my brain that people do this. So tell the audience a little bit about what it means to be a standardized patient.
Well, basically, a standardized patient, you're pretending to be a patient with a certain illness or disease or given symptoms. So you memorize like a case. They kind of give you 3 or 4 pages of, this is my name, these are my symptoms, this is what's going on. And we help like nurses and doctors with like their training so that they can practice with like real people with fake symptoms. So it's like a safe space to make mistakes. Because it's not a real symptom. So it's just really helpful to practice your communication, interaction, and stuff like that. So
it's more than just diagnosing a patient. It's also they're learning bedside manner. They're learning how to interact with patients. So you're working you're an actor, but you're working with actual real doctors, these people are all in medical school.
Yeah.
And can you give me, for example, what kind of an illness you'll be pretending to have that day? Does it vary?
It usually there'll be like a couple standardized patients there, depending on how many
How many?
doctors, or like 8, 10, 12, depending on how many doctors sign up to like practice. It's kind of like a practice test before they go in for like the real thing to, pass and become an actual doctor or nurse.
How realistic do they make this? Are you in like full-fledged hospital gown, like wound, like makeup to make you look like super sickly? Like how real do they make this that you look like an actual patient dying?
Yeah.
Or
So nothing is like emergency worthy. Nothing is like, oh, I've got like my femur sticking out of my leg. Like nothing is immediate. Usually it's like minor symptoms, like, a cold, or like I'm usually the case of like appendicitis. So my appendix like burst, depending on what it is. Well, we do have some makeup to kind of like, if there's like bruising in certain areas or stuff like that, but it's never like gory blood squirting out.
Okay, so it's not like ER or like trauma training.
No.
And
No.
then do they put you in a hospital gown, like full-fledged? So
Yeah.
you're and are you all laying in a room together, like you and all these other patients?
No, they have separate rooms.
Oh, so you have like your
Yeah.
own private room, and then you'll see one doctor at a time who will come in and
For
try.
like 15 minutes.
How long does it usually take for them to diagnose you?
Well, they're actually timed.
Really?
So they
Okay.
have to, they'll be like, okay, you have 5 minutes left. You have 3 minutes left. And so they have to do like an exam, like talking with you, getting your symptoms. And then they do like a physical exam. So for mine, like, I have to remember, okay, they have to do 5 things. They have to press on my stomach. Then they have to do something with like my leg, and different things that I have to remember, because I'm also kind of grading them at the same time.
Who's monitoring this? Is there an instructor in the room
Yeah.
watching this doctor?
Yeah.
So
They have cameras, and the, professors or the people in charge of like the program are the ones watching everything, and it's recorded as well, so they can go back and evaluate.
and so then why are you the one who's grading them on their performance? You're an actor. You're not a doctor. I mean,
Ours,
are you?
we kind of mainly grade based on like communication skills, how comfortable we felt with the doctor, and we grade on like the physical stuff, just whether or not they did it, not whether or not they did it like correctly, or like, but they kind of do give us notes like, oh, they have to do these 5 things. I mean, they have it on camera as well, so they're able to monitor, but mainly it's like, okay, this doctor was super nervous, super awkward, like, and we'll give them feedback. It's always like helpful feedback. We're never like, you did this wrong, you suck.
They have to do a physical exam on you. Does that make you uncomfortable? That
Nothing's
you're
invasive, nothing's like beyond where the gown is.
do they do this for all doctors? Does it ever get to a point where, it does get more invasive? It does get a little bit more uncomfortable, like for some standardized patients?
Not for like that training that I do. So there's other facilities, different like, people studying to be like a gynecologist. They do have standardized patients for that. That pays more. That's, more monitored, more people in the room and stuff. But we don't do that.
But I'm saying, that does exist as a job
yeah.
too, where there are people who literally pretend, to be going to the gynecologist every single day, and they're having the doctor.
Yeah. They have to practice. Yeah, on real people.
But you wouldn't like do that.
Invasive is also considered like, practicing drawing blood, or, stuff like that. I would do that. I'm fine with that.
So they're basically like buying your blood, essentially.
Yeah. I don't think they do anything with it. Not that I know of.
So being the standardized patient, you're always playing the role of appendicitis, or do you ever play, one day you have cancer, one day you have something else?
We'll usually memorize like 2 or 3 cases. Because if someone can't show up or is sick, we'll kind of like fill in for each other. There's always one person like on standby that kind of just is there, getting paid, watches everything, gives feedback, grades students. But like if someone doesn't show up, like a standardized patient, they'll like step in and be like, oh, cool.
So what other diseases do they have that people are playing, or what other diseases have you played aside from?
That's the only one I've played.
Okay.
So I haven't memorized like anything else.
But do you talk with the other patients and being like, hey, what do you have? No.
Hey, not really, because
What are you dying from?
there, we get into gown, we go into our rooms, we're like by ourselves. So yeah, no, I haven't really.
And you're shooting this in a hospital? Where do you in the med school?
It's in a training facility in DC. It's like a practice room that replicates it. It's not an actual hospital.
So you have like 4 pages to memorize on being this standardized patient. What do you do if the doctor asks you a question about a symptom that wasn't on there or you forgot? Like, can you improvise? Do you turn to the instructor and be like, what am I feeling? Like, because essentially, you're acting,
Mm-hmm.
What do you do in a scenario like that?
That's never really. Usually they tell us like, okay, if they ask about like, if you have cramps or if you're feeling feverish or whatever, like say yes. So they'll tell you what symptoms you have, and then if they ask something like, oh, did you like sleep last night? Something like that, we can sort of improvise, like, yeah, I slept, unless they specifically tell us like, no, I couldn't sleep at all, it was 2 hours. Like, so if they ask us something that's not on the list, we can like improvise, unless it takes away from the.
How often do they get it right?
Some days like everybody's perfect. Some days it's like 2 people got it right.
What other what other diseases do they like diagnose you with? Because they always have to diagnose you with something.
Yeah. Well, this one doctor who's practicing said like it's probably an STD. So I was like, what? Okay. So there it is. And they'll like, we'll draw your blood and like, get you going on your way or whatever. And I'm just like, okay. Or they'll be like, we'll do like more research or something.
Do they give you like after the clock runs out, you have to pretend to die and like your appendix bursts?
No. Usually for my case, if they're taking too long, like I kind of have to increase my pain. And I'll make it pretty obvious. They'll be like, so like, do you have, any symptoms or like of this and this? And they'll keep talking for like 25 minutes. And I'm just like, I'm just like, oh, it hurts so bad. And they're like, oh, it's probably an STD. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
That's actually so funny. So like, aside from just the memorization of the lines and the symptoms, like you have to put on a show. You have to really, really act. Mm-hmm. These like doctors, like my brother is studying to go to medical school currently.
Nice.
Hi, Usher.
You'll probably see me. Hey, see you in the future.
But so many of these people that are studying for medical school, they're scientists, right? So you're an actor. Mm-hmm. Generally, you're used to working with other actors, right? So it's an actor playing a doctor, so you're comfortable, being on screen with someone, but for these doctors, does it get really, really awkward? Does it get super uncomfortable for them to like, because are you like the first physical examination that they ever give to a live person?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's not awkward for me. I'm comfortable. I try to like make them comfortable. I'll throw in like a joke or two. I'm just like, because oh my gosh, they walk in and they're so nervous. They're like, hi, my name is Dr. and I'm going to help with the, I'm evaluating you today. And I'm just like, calm down, you're okay. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, and they'll like sit and then they'll like stand and they'll be like, do you want me to sit? And I'm like, you do you, honey. Like, I don't care. Like, just.
Can I get another pudding while you're at it?
Like, some doctors do really well and they're very confident, very comfortable. They walk in, shake your hand, like whatever. And some are so nervous.
I guess if you
understandably, but
I guess if you ever like have your appendix rupture, first of all, you'll be able to diagnose yourself.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. Yeah. And then secondly, you'll definitely know which doctors to go to and which ones not to go to. Be like, yo.
Like, oh, I remember you.
Yeah, I remember you. Yeah. Hell no. You told me I had an STD.
I don't care if I'm dying.
The truth is I have an STD also, but that's not what I'm in for.
Again?
Oh my God. So it's like fun. Do you enjoy being a standardized patient
Yeah.
as an actor?
It's so interesting because, like, even though I know I'm not having stomach cramps and all these symptoms, when you're playing that role for 8 hours, you start to, like, have cramps and your stomach hurts. It's amazing what your mind can do to trick your body. I'll walk away and I'll be like, oh, I'm like,
Maybe I do have an STD.
I gave myself appendicitis.
I've actually heard about that doctors
Yeah.
in med school, as they're learning about different symptoms, they'll actually start to feel it in real life. They'll actually start to feel
Yeah, the
these
mind
things
is
that, because
powerful.
it's like I forgot what they call them, like phantom symptoms or something, or whatever it is. Like, how often do you do this? Is it like every day? Is it like just when it comes to exam time? Like, how often do they have you playing these patients?
It's mainly on weekends. So, well, not anymore.
Since
we're still, like,
since Corona, you
yeah,
haven't.
we haven't
well,
opened
all
yet.
schools have pretty much been, kind of shut down, and
Yeah.
the acting industry as a whole has been, kind of void.
Yeah.
Essentially, apparently, we're not essential business. I don't I don't know why.
I don't know.
We're providing you
We're the one
entertainment.
keeping y'all sane.
Yeah,
You're
come on. Have
welcome.
you not watched Netflix's Quarantine? Let's be honest. Aside from being a standardized patient, you also you do law student role play and law enforcement role play. But really quickly, I want to hear about the law student role playing
Yep.
that you do. Tell me a little bit about that.
So it's kind of similar to standardized patient. You'll be given a case, you're so-and-so and like your daughter was taken from you because your husband's abusive, but they give you like an extensive background, like 4 to 6 pages of just memorizing your kids, their ages, what school they go to, like how I met my husband, every single fight we've had, all the details, his friends' names, just like extensive details of like all of that. So it's
Can
a
you
lot
give
to
me a
memorize.
example of like a case that you play in this law school?
That was one of them.
that you're
Yeah.
that you're playing
This
that
person, my daughter was like, taken because.
But what is the legal case? What are the lawyers fighting for?
So they're fighting for me to have custody of my child. So because she was taken away, they think like I wasn't protecting her, and they, Child Protective Services took her away because, my husband's abusive and like hit her and stuff, and like I'm aware of it, but I didn't really do anything about it.
But this is different than the patient work, because it's like with the patients you have 15 minutes, they need to diagnose you, kind of like a rotation, seeing 15 doctors in one day. This is a little bit more extensive, like you're playing a character for a longer period of time. How long are you generally playing this one character for?
One case, I played one character like 8 times in one day, and then like never again. I think I was filling in for someone. It was like a last minute. That actress couldn't make it, so I like
And
2 nights before memorized
And
it.
you can memorize. You said you have 2 nights to memorize how long?
Like 6 pages.
6 pages, and
Yeah.
this is just 6 pages of dialogue, or is it 6 pages of like facts about you?
Facts. Yeah, because and usually the conversation, depending on like who's interviewing me, sometimes like I'll say everything that was memorized. Sometimes it's like, oh, we talked about like 3 of these things. But if they ask a question, it's like, oh, what's your father's name? Well, I don't know. Like.
So you can improvise with that. And then these cases, do they go all the way to a fake trial? Do you go into like a fake court case?
No. The one case I played, I met with the students 4 different times, and then like that, like pre-trial, and then like that was it.
So how many law students would you work with at a time?
So for this one case I played, I was like Mrs. Sanchez or something, and I was gonna get deported. Like I had my green card, but then like my job fired me. This whole situation. And so I would meet with like, it was 8 different groups. It's usually like 2 people per group. The students are working with each other, so they're paired up together. So I get interviewed. Like some of them last like between 10 to 25 minutes. Usually the longer is better. Sometimes they'll be in there for like 10 minutes and they run out of questions. And I'll try to like, give them more information, but I can only help them so much without giving it away too much.
What is the goal though? Meaning, because with the doctors, they're trying to diagnose you with something. So what is the goal with these, attorneys essentially? What's the end result? Like, how do they pass their grade? Do they have to ask an X number of questions? What's the end goal here with them?
The professors kind of have like a goal of like, the information you need to build a strong case for them. So, they'll give them different, like, I'll give them kind of hints like, oh yeah, like I was fired, like the job was terrible, it was awful, they didn't treat me right. And they're kind of supposed to, oh, like, why didn't they treat you right? Like, what happened? And they're supposed to get into that, like, oh, well, I stopped, like, showing up to work on time because they stopped, like, paying me. They would miss paychecks and then just never pay me back. So that can help build their case. So but sometimes they just would miss my hint and just keep moving on with questions, and it's like, you missed it.
So it's almost like that they have to find, like, solve for X. Like, they have to find that, like, missing piece, that little, like, they like this script that you have with all these details. How many of them can they check off that they get? They have to kind of, like, know what's in your head. They have to know what to ask.
It depends on, like, the case and what the end goal is. The end goal is obviously, like, to make sure I don't get deported for that one case. So they have to find things that, help figure out how I can stay here and, like, what's keeping me here and, like, what they can use against other people or other situations to, make that look bad so that I look good so that I'll stay. So it really depends on the case.
And I'm sure, like, just from, like, a different, perspective, it gives you a lot of insight into what people go through who live with this in reality. The people, like, because, essentially, yes, you're playing a fictional character, but there are people in real life who are, facing deportation, facing their, children being taken away from them, facing, like, jobs, not paying them and all that. And you're actually playing someone who's going through this, and it's kind of, like, probably a little bit, like, eye-opening and fulfilling in some way that you're doing something more than just, like, slapstick comedy or a podcast. Let's get into being a law enforcement role player. This is the job that you do the most. How long have you been doing this for?
Almost a year and a couple months.
How did this come about for you?
So I was on set doing a film, and I met another actress, and, we get talking, oh, like, do you do anything else? Like, because most actors will have, like, a side job or two. And she was like, oh, yeah, I'm a role player for, like, law enforcement training programs. And I was like, that sounds really fun. So we talked about it, and I was like, I would love that. So she gave me the person's email. I sent them an email, and I got hired within, like, 2 months.
It's more than just, playing a part in a movie. Is that correct, that it's more about your, because you're not even allowed to tell me what it is, the companies that you work for. It's so what's the training process like, or the initiation process like, of just getting, qualified to play this part?
They do, background check, extensive background checks and all that. Kind of like an interview. We did more like an email It was different because I kind of like had a connection.
Okay.
And I had, really good things said about me, so they knew I was like, a solid actress, and and then you have to go through getting like a badge and an ID, because you have to go through security to even enter the facility and all of that. So it was a long process. A lot of paperwork.
What are these facilities? Are specifically training facilities for? Are these also students, law enforcement students?
They're all recruits.
What are the scenarios that you are playing and that you're doing with these recruits?
So many. lot of different scenarios. Different scenarios with like, weed or alcohol, or someone stealing someone's purse, but the other person claiming it's their purse.
And you would be one of the people who's...
Active shooter, training drills, different like robbing a bank, or just so many scenarios. And
you would be playing the perpetrator, or you'd be playing the victim?
It varies. We rotate a lot of the time. Sometimes I'll be like the criminal. Sometimes I'll be the victim. Sometimes I'll just be a bystander. They'll walk in and there's like 5 of us standing there to kind of, have an illusion. So they don't know like who to look for. It's
gotcha.
Like a bunch of us.
So you'll basically show up to work, and do you know beforehand what you're going to do? Or is there like a director on set that's like, okay, criminal, victims, bystander, witness, like,
Yeah.
or is it in the moment that they kind of assign you a role?
Whoever is like there that day, and they'll have different training scenarios set up. Like in this room, it's going to be 3 of you guys. This is your scenario. In this room, it's this scenario. This room, usually it's like 5 scenarios. So the officers rotate through the scenarios and go through each like role player.
Okay, and then give me the scenario. So let's say you're playing the bad guy. You're committing a crime.
Yeah.
What crime would you be committing in this case?
One scenario, it might be like a domestic violence scenario. So I'm standing there fighting with my husband. He's like, you cheated on me. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And so we're like improvising like a fight, an argument. And the second that, the officers get a call that there's like a disturbance, loud noise, people fighting. So they show up and they're kind of like, coming in to like break up the fight. But as soon as I see them, the instructor tells me, okay, I want you to hit like your husband. So I'll fake hit him as soon as they walk in. So they see that, so they know that they can like arrest me.
Is the goal for you to be arrested? Is it for them to solve the dispute? Like what are they trying to accomplish?
Well, it depends on each scenario, because they'll go through, training with their instructors. They'll read, study their books. They'll sit in classroom for hours, and they kind of like read about it, study it first, and then like, okay, tomorrow we're meeting with the role players to practice these scenarios.
What was your first day like? Like, do you remember your first scenario in your first training facility?
Yeah.
What was that?
I liked it because they kind of just threw me in there. They didn't treat me like, oh, you're the new person, we have to be like careful. Like they kind of were just like, all right, here's your scenario. And
Do you remember what the scenario was that day?
It was this one, oh my gosh, it was this one scenario where like we're in a cafeteria, a guy comes in with like a bomb strapped to him. And
Casual. It's a good first day.
But they kind of throw the students off guard because they're like, okay, we're going to go do our training like upstairs. I'm going to grab a quick cup of coffee real quick. And then they'll go into the cafeteria, and that's where the scenario happens. And it's like, oh, this is it.
So they're like tricking them.
Almost like they kind of know what's coming. They know like something. They're training him to be like on guard all the time.
But the officers
never just, like relax.
But the officers don't know like, okay, today we're going to be doing a bomb scare. Today it's going to be a
No.
bank robbery.
No.
Today it's going to be.
They don't know.
Do you work with the same actors over and over again? Like, have you had the same husband multiple times or the same friend? So you're like comfortable with these people, and you are like, oh, like, and
Yeah.
Are you like between takes like best friends, or do you like stay method acting the entire time?
Oh no, we joke around.
You joke around a lot.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is a lot more improv than the memorization of the law student versus the med students.
A lot less prep work.
A lot less. So you're basically like show up to work, have fun, go crazy. Like how intense can you take it? Do you ever get so like lost in the character where like you like actually get mad at it? You're like you screaming like how intense does it actually get pretending to because I mean you're trying to train these officers for real life.
Well, they'll tell you, like the instructors will tell you how far they want you to take it. Obviously you can't go off book too much. They'll give you a guideline, a structure. If they do this, if they say that, this is what I want you to do. If they fail to do this, this is what I want you to do. And then the rest is improv. It does get really intense sometimes. There's definitely like a level of adrenaline. Like when I'm done work, I'll be like, ooh, I'm exhausted from like the adrenaline. We'll do like active shooter scenarios, and I'm a victim, so I'm like screaming and crying, and he has a gun to my head, and like after the scenario, I'm like, oh, I'm shaking a little.
So you like get really like lost in it. Like that this is like full. I mean, to me this sounds like full. Better than acting school on some level, right? Like full improv, full like this is like theater on some level, without the audience. But okay, so they arrest you. Can you like resist arrest?
They'll tell us, like for this scenario, if they tell you to put your hands up, whatever, do it. Sometimes they'll be like, give them a hard time, start to argue. Now we can't get like physical. We can't fight them, punch them, hit them, slap, bite, nothing like that. We're not allowed to do that. We do have fake weapons, like we'll have blanks, guns, so it fires like a real gun, but there's no bullets in it. So it's just as loud, just as real feeling, except there's no, just air comes out. Or we'll use simulation guns, which are kind of like paintballs, but it's shaped like a real bullet, so it hurts more. But we have full like armor. We'll have like full face helmets, you know, chest, all that.
Even though you're the bad guy, they give you full
If there's
gear.
any simulation guns involved at all, everyone in the whole room has to have it, just in case, you know, they shoot, like for an active shooter scenario, they get a call that there's like a shooter in the building, but they don't know if it's 5 shooters, 1 shooter. So they'll enter and, you know, people are running and screaming. It could be anybody. And, you know, they'll give us scenarios where like I'm reaching into like my huge bag, like trying to find my phone. Right? But they don't
as
know.
one would.
And they'll be like, you know, because when we're running out, they'll tell everyone, like, put your hands in the air. One scenario, they told me to put my hands in the air, and I actually pulled a gun.
Really?
Yeah.
So you've played the and then what do you fake get shot? Do they shoot you?
If I aim it at them, yes. If I just pull it out like, you know, this, and I'm like, I'm gonna kill everybody, then they'll be like, ma'am, drop the weapon. The second I aim it, they shoot.
Really? So
Yeah.
you learn about when it's legal for them to actually use.
It depends on the department. So everybody has their own tactics. And this is a scenario like not every department uses, but it's kind of just more like a eye-opening thing for the recruits, also for me. They set up cones like 5 yards, 15 yards, 10, 20 yards to 30 yards away. And I would stand there with like a plastic knife, and I would just casually be walking. And they're like, you know, guarding the facility or security or whatever. And I just sprint as fast as I can towards them with the knife like this, like I'm going to stab them.
They can see the knife.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the one-up rule is like they're able to use lethal force, their gun. Well, most departments. I don't know for all. I don't want to like speak for every department.
Well, we don't know the department you work for, so it doesn't matter.
Perfect. So for this one that I work for, we'll run up with like a knife, and so for the 5 yards away, obviously that's really close, like almost like this. A little farther, but it's when I'm sprinting, I'm such a fast sprinter. Put that on special skills.
It's on your resume.
I do it 8 hours a day.
I mean, that's your dance background, probably, right?
Yeah, so, I sprint on my dance.
Running marathons next.
But I'll, like, sprint at them, and, like, 5 yards away, I pretty much stab them every time, because it happens that quickly. 10 yards away, 50, even the 20-yard, I got incredibly close to them before they decided to pull the trigger, even though they know I'm coming. Because the 20 yards away, they're supposed to give, like, drop the weapon. They're supposed to give me an opportunity to comply. And so I don't, obviously. And so then they're able to shoot me. And it's amazing because a lot of the times, like, they would time the scenario, and they would also mark out how close I got to them before they fired the first shot, and the student would guess and be like, I think she was like definitely at like there, and he would be like, no, she was literally like this close to you.
So they have a specific yard line of when they're allowed to legally fire and kill, to shoot to kill, which is what?
I think it's 21 feet away that you're able to, but don't quote me on that.
But if they shoot you, let's say from 25 feet, then they failed.
Like, the thing is, it's not like the movies. It is really not like the movies where you shoot someone once and they're like, oh, I'm dead instantly. Like, you can shoot someone up to 15 times before the adrenaline wears off and they're on the ground, because they're told to shoot until the threat is gone. And the one scenario the instructor told me that was his scenario back when he was active. This one guy was running at him and his buddy with a knife, and I think that's where the scenario came from. And they shot him 15 times, and he started to run away. They severed his artery, which usually you're supposed to die within 5 seconds. They severed his artery, and he made it half of a mile away before he fell to the ground. It's
really?
Just like, yeah, when you have that adrenaline pumping through you, you don't really stop. Their intention is not to stop.
Does the adrenaline ever wear off for you? Because, you know, the thing is yes, you're playing, you know, all these really, really crazy scenarios, you know, like bombs and shooters and guns and school, like all these different things. Do you ever like wake up in the morning like, "Ugh, like I don't want to like throw myself on the ground today and like roll around and get shot at?" Like does it ever g- get old and turn into like a job, or are you always like excited and pumped and like, all right, let's go like train these officers, let's go like do some crazy shit?
I'm pumped. Yeah.
Really?
I'm definitely excited. 'Cause I know like I have an opportunity to give these recruits chances to have a safe space to make mistakes or like the right decision and to feel comfortable and confident graduating and moving on to the real thing. So I love having that opportunity to give them
So how many different departments and agencies as a whole do you work for?
before. Because two will film like training videos. One of them is for like a 300 screen, because a lot of departments will use like a 300-degree screen with the scenario playing on it, and they'll have like, you know, like the fake weapons that will trigger like the screen or whatever.
It's like a video game almost.
Yeah, almost. It's huge. It's like almost as tall as like the curtain, almost 360. So it'll be like 300. They'll be in there with their partner. It's a huge room, and the scenario will play out. And we film like 14 different outcomes based on what they decide to do. And
Can you give me
really
a
cool.
so this is also like active shooter type stuff, or
So the first one I had, I was a photographer, and there was an important, you know, government person being escorted to their vehicle or something, and you know, there's security or whatever, and I'm walking up like, oh, I want to take a picture, and this is being like filmed. We'll film it a couple of different times, and you know, I'm not supposed to be reaching my hand, and I go past the barrier, so they're supposed to tell me, like, you know, ma'am, like, let me see your hands, like, step back behind the barrier, and, you know, we'll film different outcomes. One scenario, I comply. One scenario, I pull out a gun. One scenario, I'll pull out my phone, and the one where I pull out my phone, they'll record two different outcomes. Like, okay, one outcome, they shoot me, so we'll film me getting shot and falling on the ground.
and you have to like lay there, pretend to play dead and scream, or
Yeah.
sometimes you get shot in the leg and you're like just screaming in pain.
Well, they never like specify an area you'll get shot, and I'm not supposed to. They tell us not to reach for an area. It's supposed to just like you fall, because you know, depending on where the officer actually, it's a screen. It's hard to
Right.
tell. So
Why do they do that as opposed to training with real life actors the way that you do in the active shooters and, you know,
yeah,
all that?
it's up to the department. It's up to budget. Most departments don't even like have a budget for either of those. They'll practice with like their instructors or their buddies.
Do you have some more violent cases where you're, you know, kind of violent against the officers, or, you know, aside from the active shooter, you know, where
Yeah.
it's a much more one-on-one type of scenario?
There was this one, I think like the most intense day, the most like eye-opening one for me. This one scenario, the officers are practicing like, you know, someone will be outside like injured, like, oh, someone like hit me and, you know, broke into my store. You know, like it might be a bank, or like they just broke in, and they'll be like, okay, who is it? Like, how many people? And they're like, I don't know. I didn't see anything. I was just hit. So, and the power's out. So we'll do that. That was the one scenario. They go in, the power's out. So they're practicing clearing rooms, like making sure that, you know, they covered every closet, every room, because people could jump out anywhere, and they're also practicing with their flashlights. So it was me, another role player, we're in a closet, and we both have guns. So we're rummaging through, making a lot of noise, and we're like, oh shit, we hear they're coming. So we're supposed to let them know where we are. So they'll come into the room.
Like hide and go seek.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, so they come into the room, and they're supposed to like, you know, clear the room and whatever. So they hear us. So they're like, okay, come out, like with your hands up. So the one role player will go out, like with his hands up. He's like, okay, like, and you know, his weapon's in his belt. So he turns around and they see the weapon. So they're like, like, okay, we got to put him in like cuffs. And they're so focused on that they don't even think to finish clearing the room that I'm
really
there.
you're there.
I'm hiding there with a gun. And usually if they finish clearing the room, like, and they see me and they tell me to come out, I'll comply. But sometimes, like, the instructors will tell us, like, okay, if they don't finish clearing the room, jump out and, shoot.
Shoot an officer?
So, and it's really loud, and it fires like a real gun, and it was so intense. Like, I jump out, and, like, I'm the one doing it, and I know it's coming, and I'm still just like, oh, I got like an adrenaline. It scared the shit out of most of them.
They actually failed to clear the room, and you had to shoot them?
Yeah. Depending, like, some students did it correctly, some just failed to do that, and so he would start to put him in cuffs, and this person's checking that corner, this person's checking that corner, no one's watching the closet, and I jump out and I just like shoot the officer, and he's just like this one guy, I scared the living days out of him, Red. Oh my God, he was literally after the instructor was debriefing, he was literally just like trying to be like calm, and he was shaking, and I was like, oh my God. But I love it because it's a safe space to like make mistakes,
Yeah, I mean essentially nobody is good at a job naturally. You have to really learn it. You have to, and
it's
this,
hard.
and this, especially in like today's day and age, like if these officers, it's better that they get shot by you by a fake, simulator gun than in real life, because that, like, that this guy is never going to not check a closet again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's so. And then like afterwards, are you like apologizing? I'm so sorry for shooting you. Like,
yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry.
No, I mean it's important though. And do you feel like you have a lot of insight in what you would do if you were ever in an active shooter situation because of this job, or what you like? Meaning because essentially, on some level, you have as much, or if not more, knowledge than a lot of these officers because of how you're doing it over and over and over again. So you're learning. Do you think that if you took the test, you would? Yeah.
I was joking with an instructor the other day. I was like, what if I enrolled, and just became a recruit? And he's like, yeah, you'd do fine.
Because like, you have to learn all the different.
Because I repeat it over and over and over again. So yeah.
That's so
it's like I'm getting the training too.
So then let's say, for example, they do find you, they arrest you, they put you in handcuffs, put you in a squad car, lock you up in jail.
Do like a full SIA search.
What's SIA?
So it's like a frisk. There's like a frisk and then like an SIA, which is like a full, what does it stand for? Search investigating to lead to an arrest. Something like that. Don't quote me. I'm sorry if I got it wrong.
Never mind, you failed.
Basically, a frisk is kind of like they don't have any evidence against you that they can arrest you. So that a frisk is just like superficial, checking and it might vary per department. So it's usually just very basic level, trying to find a weapon. If they don't find anything, like, you're good. And SIA is like they've already found something against you that they, can like arrest you for. So then SIA is making sure there's no drugs, weapons, needles, anything. So it's like a full, like, really detailed frisk of everything. Groin, breast area, just everything, hair.
And you're like, and this doesn't make you uncomfortable?
No.
You're used to it?
I'm so used to it. I also think my dance background helps. I was a dancer for years, and I'm used to being lifted by my butt and to being touched and held. Like,
does it ever get like inappropriate though with a recruit or someone getting handsy, getting inappropriate with you?
If it's a female, they're allowed to use their palm. If it's a male and it's a sensitive area, they have to use like the back of their hand to check.
And do you actually have stuff hidden in your hair, in your pants, in your like in this scenario?
We'll put like a keychain or like a letter opener, different stuff like that for them to find.
Are they as nervous frisking you as the doctors are from giving you exams?
So some of the officers are confident. They're totally comfortable and fine. This one poor guy, he had to do like the groin check area with like the back of his hand. So basically you just sweep the groin area like that to like if there's anything there. And he was literally like barely like touched me at all. Like there was space, and the instructor was like, no, you got to do it again. Like I saw air in between like where your hand was. Like there's not supposed to be space. So he like did it again. He's like, nope. And I'm just like, bro, just like go for it. Like
Just
I don't
get in there, find my gun.
At that point, you've done it like 5 times by now. Like you're making it worse. Like, it's cute and respectful. Most of the guys like, don't want to like make you uncomfortable. So they'll be kind of doing the search, like barely touching you. And I'm like, you're trying to find a weapon. Like just put some pressure. Like
I wonder though, like, do they, cause I mean, in real life, a cavity search is a real thing, but they don't hire actors for that, I'm assuming. No. I have a friend of mine who actually had a cavity search done in an airport. He had like international passports and whatever, and they took him to like a back room, and like I can only imagine the training for that. That's rough.
Hey.
I guess the people who work for the gynecologists are the ones who are doing the cavity searches. Probably, on the
same people.
Oh my God! So you can resist arrest sometimes. But you can't get violent with the so there's no like spitting in their face and getting all you're doing a lot of physical stunts as well. Does it ever, first of all, like, are you ruining your own clothes? Do they give you like a uniform to wear? I
usually have my own set of clothes at home that I bring that are like my work clothes, so I don't wear them anywhere else. It's usually like old pair of ripped jeans and like a t-shirt.
Do you ever get any physical injuries of yourself because you're like throwing yourself on the ground and you're running and screaming and like whatever? Like there's a lot of physical stunts that you're doing. Yeah. Do you ever like get bruised and bloodied and all that?
I'll get bruised. Like mainly if I'm shot, I have to immediately like fall to the ground. You're supposed to fall correctly, and I've been trained how to fall correctly. But when you've got an adrenaline going and you're just like, yeah, and I was hit. And a lot of the times with the simulation guns, I've never been shot with one yet. Usually they like me as the victim. I'm really good at screaming and, but a couple of the role players have had like, sometimes if you're too close and you get shot, like literally it will break the skin. You can bleed from those.
Really? From the air pressure?
This simulation. So the ones that are like paintballs.
Oh.
Except they hurt more because they're shaped like a bullet. So it's designed to almost feel like a real bullet.
How much do you get paid for this? If you don't mind me asking.
It varies by company. Usually it's between like 20 and 30 an hour for like an 8-hour day.
Do you ever work with like canine dogs?
I'm going to. I haven't yet, but starting in like 2 months.
And is that like they're gonna put like weed on you so that the dogs have to like find, but they have to use, I'm sure, real, because the dogs can't sniff out,
And then
like,
I'll smoke it after.
Obviously, share. Bring some to me. We'll share it.
I'll just keep it in my pocket. Have a good day.
Maybe this job would be more fun if you did it high.
Please don't fire me.
Janae is the best. You know what I find really, really fascinating after this whole conversation? Like, yes, we're both actors, but I don't come close to like the level of talent and the level of I guess, like determination that you have, because this is acting in the purest form. There's no one, you don't get footage for your reel. There's no awards you can be nominated for. No one's ever going to see this. No one, there's no audience. There's no applause. There's really no gratification that comes of it, except for knowing in yourself that you did a good job. It's not like, oh, check out, my show that's going to be on TV. Like, you put it all out there in this training facility, and then no one ever gets to see the work that you did. And like, that's like the purest form of acting in my opinion on some level.
That's why I do it.
Right?
That's what it's about. It's about just being fulfilled with your craft and what you do, and not necessarily like the praise you might get from it, because that doesn't last, and that's never fulfilling.
I think that's always a very important lesson for a lot of people, because I think like you ask a lot of people like, what do you want to be, and they're like, oh, I'd love to be an actor. Being an actor is so cool, like red carpets and which you do.
Remember
and I
me
remember
when you're famous.
Yeah, I remember when you're famous. But aside from that, like the glamorous Hollywood life, and people don't realize that it's like, if you want to be an actor, act, right? And there are so many forms of acting. It's like you don't want to be an actor, you want to be on TV, right? You want to, like, is there a difference between wanting to be famous versus wanting to be an actor? You know, what advice do you have for people who, after listening to this, and they're like, okay, like this is something that I can see myself doing. This is something that I want to do. What do you recommend to them? What do you advise to them? What's your message to them?
Definitely love it, because it's not easy work. It's not rewarding when it comes to, like you said, like fame or Instagram followers, or like, you know, and the pay is pretty like regular. It's not like, oh yeah, I got like, you know, $800 a day for doing this. Like, it's really about just the love of that and perfecting your craft and genuinely like wanting to help these people with their training. So advice would be to just kind of, you have to just be confident and just lay everything else aside and come in with definitely an open mind. And with standardized patients, with role playing, you don't have to be an actor. I've met a lot of role players that are not actors at all. They've never had any background, but they just come in and they nail it.
Really?
So yeah, if you want to do it and you're interested, like, you don't really have to have any acting experience. You just have to be comfortable, and just throw yourself in the scenario.
And like be comfortable like acting a fool in front of all these people.
Yeah,
And, you know,
you can't really be embarrassed or afraid or shy at all. You just gotta do it.
It honestly, this has been really, really, really fascinating talking to you. Just, you know, understanding it, how many different levels and types of acting that there is. It's been very, very eye-opening. I had no idea that they hired, you know, actors for all these different training. I'm really curious to know about what other, you know, training actors they have for different jobs in the world. But for real, Janae, honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on the show. It really, it means the world to me that, you know, that you were here, that you took the time out of your day to be here. It's just like, I've been wanting to have you on the show for the longest time. You did not disappoint. This has been one of the most fascinating episodes I've ever done. And you have a film coming out soon on Amazon, I think, or on where is it going to be streaming?
Amazon, Hulu, every TV channel, Sling TV.
What's the name of the film?
The Special.
The Special. I did see the trailer. I did see play like
check it out.
You know what? We're gonna let you check it out.
Yeah.
It's called The Special. What day is it dropping?
October 13th.
All right. I'm not sure when this episode will air, but
yeah,
check out The Special. Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, wherever it's gonna be. Janae is an amazing, amazing actress. Follow her on Instagram, Janae Palmer. It will be all linked down below. And make sure to subscribe to our channel, to like us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever we are, Spotify, you know the drill. Thank you so much. It's My Job to Know Yours. I'm Red Younger, and thank you. Well, I just did my job, so now it's time for you to do your job, which is to hit that subscribe button. Because if you don't do your job, I'm going to lose my job, and let's face it, I'm qualified for nothing.